Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome to Coming Soon. This week we're going to be talking about the newest game in one of Ubisoft's biggest series, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. If you guys haven't watched one of my other Coming Soon episodes before, then basically my goal here is to help you see one way or another if this is a game you're interested in, by giving you an overview of the story, gameplay, multiplayers, extras, and systems, before winding down with some of my predictions about the game, what the community is saying about the game, and then wrap it up with my overall thoughts. So, without any further introduction, let's get right into the story of the game. Syndicate will take place in 1868, at the height of the Industrial Revolution. The Assassin Brotherhood has all but been eradicated, and twins Jacob and Evie Fry leave their town of Crawley to head for London. When they arrive, they find that the city is now controlled by Templars, with both the Church and the Monarchy losing their power. Raised by assassins to follow the creed, Jacob and Evie will attempt to take back the city from Templar control by infiltrating and uniting London's criminal underground with their gang known as the Rooks. The story will take place throughout 7 boroughs in London, with those being Westminster, the Strand, the City of London, Buckingham, Whitechapel, Southwark, and Lambeth. Your tasks in these areas will center around taking out Templar gang leaders, with one gang leader in charge of each of these boroughs. Aside from that, not much is known about the story. You'll have dealings with novelist Charles Dickens as well as biologist Charles Darwin, but how major or minor their appearances will be is unknown. Gameplay in Syndicate has added several new elements to differentiate between past games in the series, perhaps the biggest being the new carriage driving and carriage combat scenarios. At any time during free roam or during applicable missions, you'll be able to hijack random carriages roaming the streets of London. These carriages have several gameplay applications, such as high-speed chases, on top of carriage combat.
But be aware that enemies will also be able to use this against you, ramming you off the road or hijacking your vehicle. To allow combat on top of vehicles, we've enabled carriages to
or carriage jumping.
It takes care of the opposition. With our vehicle damaged, let's change carriage before this one. Need to consolidate your control.
While fighting on top of carriages in these given scenarios, the carriage will auto-path towards the objective, allowing you to focus on the combat at hand. Carriages also take damage during combat, and if you're playing in free roam, you can run over pedestrians and get the London police to follow you, much like an old-timey Grand Theft Auto. If, however, you're not in the mood for the new carriage system, Syndicate offers some new environmental transversal gameplay as well, most notably the rope launcher. The rope launcher seems to function much like the line launcher from Batman Arkham series, allowing you to scale the buildings of London much faster than you could in previous titles. The launcher takes on 2 main attributes for environmental transversal, with those being building scaling.
Also new to our game, the rope launcher will change the way you navigate throughout the city. With this new tool, you can climb the highest building in the 19th century.
And the zipline function.
Embodies the hustle and bustle spirit associated with
the zipline function also has the added benefit of allowing the player to perform aerial assassinations while high above their target. The game will center around the twin characters Jacob and Evie Fry. You'll play as both characters during the campaign, with the Jacob missions being around 75% and Evie being around 25%. However, during free play, you'll have the option to choose between the twins at any time. Each character will have a dedicated skill tree, and each character will be more adept in certain playstyles. Jacob's playstyle is more suited towards hand-to-hand combat, while Evie's shines when it comes to taking a stealth approach. Each will have specific weapons and skills that the other does not. For Jacob, these skills and weapons will center around close quarters combat. The weapons we know he uses are the kukri, a curved blade which can be hand-wielded or thrown, a 6-shot revolver used for distance kills or finishers, brass knuckles used to enhance melee capabilities, the assassin's gauntlet holding hallucinogenic darts which can turn enemies against each other, the rope launcher and a hidden blade, throwing knives, and a cane which hides a blade inside. As for Evie, her skills and weapons will center around stealthy gameplay. The weapons we've seen her use are the cane sword, a cane which sheathes a sword much like Jacob's, and the throwing knives, another weapon which is also available for Jacob, but is made more powerful for Evie thanks to her knife master ability. We've also seen Evie show off an exclusive ability in the chameleon technique, in which standing still while in stealth mode will cover Evie in a highly camouflaged state, making her nearly impossible for enemies to see. Another new, albeit less significant addition to the gameplay is the ability to perform environmental takedowns. Both times I've seen environmental takedowns used, they've been while an enemy is standing under a large cluster of barrels, and the player has thrown a throwing knife to knock the object on top of the enemy. But that's not to say this will be the only type of environmental takedown in the game. There's also a new feature of throwing knives in the form of a distraction. Tossing a throwing knife near an enemy will cause the enemy to walk over and check out the noise, allowing you to better position your strikes. Also new is the ability to control Jacob and Evie's gang, the Rooks. The Rooks can be upgraded much like your character apparently, but little is known as to what they can actually do for you. But seeing as gang control is central to the game's core concept, it should be quite in-depth. You'll boost your gang by liberating allies and taking over strongholds. Do enough of these things in a particular borough, and you'll initiate a gang war to take out one of the 7 Templar gang leaders and take control of that borough. In addition to all these features is the new combat system, which is said to be quote-unquote faster and more responsive than ever before. This system will focus on hand-to-hand and short weapons combat. And finally, there will be another method of transportation around the city in the game's train system. Trains can be ridden on top of, perhaps inside as well, but we've seen no gameplay for it, and will offer combat scenarios on top of the cabin. As for multiplayer, there will be no competitive or co-op multiplayer game mode in Syndicate. The developers instead are choosing to concentrate their efforts on the single-player content. In my opinion, this is probably a good move, seeing as Assassin's Creed Unity had a lot of issues in this department. There's 2 things we can talk about for extras, but let's start with the return of Helix credits in the game. If you're unfamiliar with Helix credits like me, then basically they're a form of optional game currency which can be used to buy things to help your character. You can spend real-world money on them, or you could earn them through the Uplay reward system. This does put microtransactions in the game, but from how I understand it, the game should be fully beatable without the exchange of any real-world money. The second is the Season Pass has already been announced, and it entails the DLC of a Jack the Ripper campaign, the last Maharaja missions, 2 high-end gear slots, a permanent XP bonus, and some additional content and exclusives. The one I'm most interested in is the Jack the Ripper DLC, which is the only one that has a trailer, and it states in the trailer that this will take place in 1888, which, if you remember, is 20 years after the events of the base game, which takes place in 1868. And this is a little bit confusing. Does this mean we'll be playing as Jack the Ripper instead of Jacob and Evie Fry, or will we be getting a new protagonist? For systems, Syndicate will be available on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One starting October 23rd, 2015, then following on the PC on November 19th, 2015. PlayStation 4 seems to have exclusive mission set in the Dreadful Crimes, which will include 10 side missions in which the player investigates kidnappings, murders, and other crimes around London. As for my predictions on the game, I predict that Ubisoft needs to ensure that this title has a good launch. After the very rocky release of Assassin's Creed Unity, Ubisoft needs to ensure that everything with this title is running smoothly, namely because Assassin's Creed is pretty much the biggest franchise that Ubisoft has under its belt right now. If they have another poor release, especially when I think they have 4 different collector's editions of the game, then they're going to be in for a pretty rough ride. Of course, this game has a much easier road than Unity did because this one doesn't have to worry about the online functionality, but I still think they need to focus on as little error as possible to distance themselves from that memory. For what the community is saying, it's about half positive and half negative. Some people are saying Unity tainted their outlook on the series. Some people hope that this will redeem the series for them after Unity. Some people are excited to explore this new location. Some people are hoping for a different location in the future. So to wrap this up with my final thoughts on the game, I think the game is looking pretty good. I think they're adding enough new gameplay features to keep the formula interesting without distorting the overall feel of the game. I think the setting is definitely a good one and the gang system is a big draw. If you're a fan, then I definitely think this game will meet all of your needs. If you're not a fan or you're wary after Unity's bugs, then I do have to say this game is looking pretty good, so check out some gameplays and see if the setting interests you. But perhaps don't pre-order the game, if not just to show Ubisoft that they messed up with Unity, and they need to prove that they're capable of releasing a finished product at launch in order to sell copies. Alright, so that is pretty much all I have to say on Assassin's Creed Syndicate. The next coming soon episode that I plan on doing is for Halo 5 Guardians. Actually, it's a two episodes that would release on the same day, so technically they're both the same day. But for Halo 5 Guardians and then Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition. Now, those would go up on September 27th, but both of the games come out on October the 27th. I'm not sure if I'm going to do Divinity because Divinity is already out. It's out on the PC, so I'm not positive I'm going to do that. This is technically sort of a re-release. It's never been on the consoles before, but that's coming out on the consoles. So I'm going to think about that. Let me know in the comments below if that's something you'd be interested in. But, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on this video. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this or found it informative, then please remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. And, yeah, you all have a great day, and I hope to see you in my next video.
This slum is now 1, and your gang occupies the territory.
Oi! Can't a man juggle on the stairway in peace anymore? Oh, sure, just ignore me. Bloody cocksucker.